Okay, I'm back. Hello, good morning. Hey, Ghost Eggy, how's it going? Yep, getting started. Sorry, still kind of waking up. I woke up at 5 a.m. and I'm not allowed to eat, so I'm very sleepy. Uh, let's see, what am I doing today? What am I gonna do today? I've got things to do today. I finished up an Imperial Fist Captain yesterday. He turned out looking pretty good. I'll post some pictures of him on the Discord once I get some good ones. But until then, I've got a new thing. It was a gift from another user who was kind enough to donate it just because they didn't need it. But you can kind of see it in the on the bottom of the screen. What I am making today, what I'm going to work on today, is that right there. This is a Primaris Invader ATV, which I have no use for in my army. I have no real use for it in any real sense other than, hey, it's a neat model to paint. So I decided, instead of painting it up like an Imperial Fist or any other thing, I'm going to go ahead and meme this up a little bit. So I saw it on probably Reddit a couple days ago, and I thought it was worth copying myself because I'm shameless. But does anyone remember the show Red vs. Blue? Because I think that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go ahead and put this together and turn it into a puma. And if I recall properly, which I haven't really looked a whole lot at the model, I'm almost positive that the ATV has a driver, a passenger, and a gunner. And if that's the case, they are definitely going to become Sarge, Griff, and Simmons. Because I see absolutely no reason why I shouldn't do this. So that's what today is going to be for as long as I can. Later, I've got to go get a heart cath because my body has decided to be really mean, and so I've got to check and make sure that I'm actually okay. So I'm not going to be online for too long. I'm going to try and get as much done as I can, and then I'll move from there and see what kind of work I need to do to get the rest of this guy done. Oh no, okay, so it's only a two-seater. Still not that bad. I can go ahead and just make it Griffin Simmons then, I suppose. So that is what I am planning to do. But first, I've got to actually take this thing apart and put it back together. I don't have the instructions in front of me. Instead, what happened was the gentleman who sent this to me. Oh man, it really did just come in the magazine, right? I should have went ahead and got the Imperium subscription. This is cool. $12 a month for a magazine and a $60 model type. Oh, goodness gracious. But yeah, so what's going to happen now is I'm going to go ahead and put this thing together. Let's see, what do we have? First things first, it looks like it wants me to put the wheels together, so I think I'm going to go ahead and do that. 5, 7, I have no idea what I'm looking at. I'm far too tired for this morning. This is the one thing about Games Workshop sprues that always, I'm not going to say it drives me nuts, but it definitely is a problem. Their sprue setup, because they try and fit as much as possible onto each of these sprues, it just ends up being an absolute mess. And it becomes impossible to find anything. And I know for a fact I'm not the only one who has spent far too long gazing intently at a Games Workshop sprue trying to find that one piece because 6 is nowhere near 7. You know what I mean? So, yeah. Hopefully I won't have to do that too much for this stream. I may be a little out of it today, simply because I wasn't allowed to eat past midnight last night, and I can't really drink anything except for a cup of water, which they explicitly told me to have. So I'm running off of no coffee, no caffeine, which, being an old man, is something that I need on the daily. I've had no food since, 7 o'clock last night, which, now that I think about it, feels real foolish. I should have went ahead and pushed that all the way to the very edge of that time limit. But, yeah, so there's a good chance that I may seem a little out of it. I may seem a little bit spacey. It is entirely because I'm running off of no food. Let's go ahead and be awful and try and smooth out some of the mold lines. And I gotta be honest with you guys, after seeing some of the flashing and mold lines on some of Games Workshop's older models, in particular, I got a resin cast a resin cast Captain from the Horus Heresy, a Terminator Praetor. And it's even a newer one, but my goodness, was there a lot of fine cast flashing on that thing, or resin cast flash on that stuff. And I bought an old school Boss Snickrot before they discontinued that model in favor of the newer True Scale one, and a Captain Lysander for pretty much the same reason. And it's pretty impressive how much flashing they were able to keep on those sprues. I'm really happy that Warhammer and Games Workshop as a whole switched over to this polystyrene. It definitely works and looks and performs a whole lot better than the old stuff. Though I do kind of wonder if there are any old school players who miss having to kind of sand down the flashing to get it so that it looked nice and smooth. You know, back in my day, we had to do that. It was part of the construction, and it was part of the fun. I don't know. Okay, so looks like I'm going to need 5 and 6, and they're just going to go in like so, and just going to go around the tire. Oops. Oh, does this just snap together? Okay, no, I think I need to actually put cement in here, or some plastic cement. So I'm gonna do that real quick. Okay, bond you back together. And now that should be good. 1. Okay. Part 4. There's part 4. There's part 4. Yeah, that's kind of the goal for today, is to get this done. I had other plans, but then as I was leaving to go to a friend's house yesterday, my wife told me, hey, you got a package. And this was sitting on the little table I have next to the door. And I realized, oh, after like 3 months of customs being awful, this finally made it to the house. So this is happening instead. Hopefully soon. I've got a couple commissions lined up, and I'll be able to work on those. They're actually not Warhammer related, but I'm hoping that they'll be fun. I'm hoping they'll be entertaining. One of my favorite things to do, what's becoming one of my favorite things to do, is to see other people's models and the kind of creativity they have. And that's part of it. One client is just some person from the local game shop that posted asking if there's any painters out there, because they're not too confident with their own painting skills. And I threw my hat in the arena, and they went ahead and messaged me about it. So hopefully very soon they'll go ahead and send me the STL, and I can print it out on my fancy printer, and I get that thing painted up for them. And at the same time, I have a friend of a friend who made figures of some of their friends' models, or some of their friends' characters from D&D, and they want desk-sized versions of those characters, because they all play remotely due to the pandemic still being an issue. And so they want larger versions of those characters. They want me to print those out as well, and they're going to pay me a pretty penny to do that. That's kind of neat. So I'm pretty excited to have more commission work rolling in, because of the chest issues and the breathing issues that have kept me out of commission for the past month. And to be completely honest, I'm still kind of recovering from that. Based on some of the medicine I've been given, and based on how it's affected me, we're almost positive that it's just adult onset asthma, which seems like much ado about nothing, but it definitely is nice to hear, because the alternative was that I was having heart problems in my mid-30s, and I feel like I'm a fairly healthy individual. So I was very confused as to why all of a sudden my heart decided it was time to choose violence. So hopefully all of that goes okay, and I can go back to having a much more regular streaming schedule. Right now, I'm on spring break because I am a school teacher, so I have a little more time to do things like stream during school hours, which means I can actually communicate and see more of people from Europe, where seems to be where a lot of my viewer base is from. Okay, and I need part 16. 16, fantastic. A lot of this is very large. I'm kind of impressed with the ingenious design that is Games Workshop. They do such a good job of making the construction of the pieces kind of make sense. And so I don't ever feel like I'm too utterly lost when I'm looking through their models, which I think is really funny, because there's a famous video on YouTube about Hero Quest, and if you know about Hero Quest, that's pretty cool. If you don't, Hero Quest was a game made, I think, by Games Workshop, because the sci-fi version was called Space Quest, Space Marines, but there was a game called Hero Quest, and it was essentially like Dungeons and Dragons, but more board gamey. And a gentleman on the internet did a video talking about how great that game was. And I really think that his passion for the game And that video helped revitalize interest in it, and that's what caused people to start. I'm dumb. I'm really dumb. Caused people to be interested in it. You know what I mean? So, one of the things he talked about was how simple and clean the models looked. Did I just accidentally get this thing stuck in here when I tried to dry fit it? And a bit that he talked about was his love for the gargoyle. And, you know, this is a gargoyle. And then he talked about how there were no instructions needed because it was only like 2 pieces. And it wasn't an overbuilt, confusing mess like current miniature models. And the example he gave was some kind of knight from Age of Sigmar, I believe. So it was definitely one of those moments. That's a little disappointing. I was hoping this would be loose enough that the wheel could go. I guess not. Oh, I see. No, the wheel can't go. What happened was I put the wheel in wrong because I wasn't paying attention. So this wheel is not going to be mobile at all. Oh, Games Workshop, I'm disappointed in you. Because I have your old Invader bike and that wheel could go. Not this one. That's okay. I'll get over it. Here I am talking up how good the company has become. And they don't even let their wheels spin anymore. Travesty. Okay. Let's go ahead and get this on here. Let's see, how does that go? That goes like so. Right, yeah. And now it's clean. It's clean, now it's on there. We're going to put a little bit more on here to help encourage that seam to seal. Because if you know anything about plastic cement, what it's actually doing is it's actually melting the cement at the contact point. And so, if you want, you can actually get a low bottle of this stuff and throw in like a sprue. And that'll melt down and become this gummy mess that you can then use to kind of fill in these holes and sand them down. And it's called sprue goo, which is an interesting idea. But it does exactly what it's supposed to do. It just makes it so that you don't have those unsightly seams in your mini that make it look like a toy versus trying to make it, you know, look a little more authentic as a miniature representation of life. So I gotta say, one thing I am kind of appreciating about this point in the hobby is that if you played Warhammer previously, if you played it as a young kid, a younger individual, or when it was older, you could clearly see that the design aesthetic, because of limitations in technology, the style of the time, etc., etc., the game definitely had far more cartoonish, exaggerated features, right? And so it was neat kind of seeing that transition from those exaggerated, silly features to the attempt at more realistic, proportionate scale, and how they still have to have those exaggerated features to sell what the model looks like, to sell its expression, to sell, you know, the emotion that it's supposed to have on it, and the details it's supposed to have on it. Because at that size, readability is at a premium, and if you can't make out what the model's supposed to look like, then it really does just kind of become a mess to look at. And clearly Games Workshop doesn't want that. They want their ferocious spacemen to look like ferocious spacemen. And if you can't really make out what their face is doing from 3 feet away, then it loses that impact. You know what I mean? It loses that messaging. So yeah, I'm really tickled by kind of this weird place that GW's design team is at, where they're trying to make everything look more realistic, they're trying to make everything look more believable in proportion and expression, but it still has to have that kind of ultra cartoony, exaggerated features that if you saw someone who looked like this in real life, you'd probably be very concerned about the proportions and size of the different features of their face. But, you know, it is what it is. And so I'm curious where they're going to go. I kind of hope that, you know, as the technology gets better,
they still keep these kind of cartoony design aesthetics, because that's a huge part of the selling point for me in the game, is just seeing these little game pieces that are clearly fantastical and fictitious, but at the same time they're still believable as people, right? Like and I know I'm kind of preaching to the choir here. Like this lady right here, she is a really neat model, but her facial features are definitely a little bit more proportionate, but she's also kind of got that heroic scale going on, right? She's got the longer limbs, she's got the shorter torso, she's got huge bulging muscles everywhere, and that ridiculously tall hair. Like, could you imagine trying to walk around with hair that was a head and a half taller than you? And I just love that combination. It makes me very happy. At some point, I'll paint those. I specifically bought the Escher Gang because I'm really drawn to that late 80s, early 90s splatterpunk aesthetic that they go by, and I was really excited. Like, man, I'm gonna get to paint some crazy ladies with big old guns and really loud neon clothes. And I put them together, and then I'll be honest, I kind of promptly forgot about them. I have yet to do that, and I don't know why. I think it's just that I can't hold an interest for too long, and it's why I probably ought to stop buying unit boxes of models and start just buying like leaders. Because the character models, I can really kind of sit down and sink my teeth into. And I had that a little bit with the Magus from the Gene Stealer cult, because again, I wanted to own some Gene Stealer cults, and the Magus in particular. What the heck is going on with the song? It's that one. The Magus I thought was a really neat looking model, and so I decided if I was going to try and get the Gene Stealer cult, that was going to be how I started, right? So I painted her up, had a good time, but also kind of decided I don't want to buy any more Gene Stealer cult. So that is where that collection is going to kind of stop for now. Who knows? I may do it later because I like the idea of them. I think the idea that they are... what the heck is going on here? Because you're all 8s. Oh, okay. Here we go. I like the idea that they are very justifiably fighting against a corrupt and abusive Imperium, but unbeknownst to them, it's to serve even more malicious, what's the word I'm looking for? More malicious forces. Because it's 40k played straight, you know what I mean? Well, with a little touch of irony. Everything is bad. You're not allowed to have a happy ending. There is no catharsis. No everything that is fighting in this world is morally bereft, and so even the least bad of the bad guys is still a bad guy, right? And I think it's kind of depressing in some ways, but at the same time, it definitely takes out the moral quandary of essentially genociding them on a tabletop. So yeah, I appreciate that. I enjoy that kind of ridiculousness, and it's a big reason why I'm so into Warhammer. And I guess the thing is, when I first started, I didn't get it. When I first saw Warhammer, I don't know if that was anyone else's experience, that they kind of had to double dip to make sure that they actually enjoyed it. But when I first saw Warhammer about 15, 20 years ago, I didn't understand it. I didn't know why people would like this. I didn't know why people would care about it. All the things that make it charming and fun, it wasn't clicking for me. It took, and I think I've talked about this before, and this is probably the case for a lot of people, it took If the Emperor Had a Text-to-Speech Device to actually get me interested in this, because they were able to take the stuff that was silly and absurd and really poke fun at it in a way that was funny. And even if you weren't a huge fan of it and you didn't understand the lore, most of the jokes still landed, right? And so that got me mildly interested in it. And then all of a sudden, I found that Astartes short, and it just portrayed the Space Marines in such a badass way that it was suddenly like, yeah, I need to learn more about this world. And so between text to speech, not taking it seriously, and helping me appreciate the humor, and Astartes showing what it looks like when it is played straight, in a very unique way, I was kind of sold. Because I don't know, as much as I love games like Space Marine, I feel like a lot of the depictions of the characters, it doesn't really do them justice, because the way they're described, it is like every one of them are inhuman. You know what I mean? They have inhuman reflexes. They're inhumanly fast. They're inhumanly quick. They are all of that kind of stuff. But when you watch how they're portrayed in, you know, Dawn of War or in Space Marine, they don't move or behave any differently than pretty much every other's action hero from anything. And that kind of got me. It's like, okay, so the only thing making them different is that they've been around longer and they've got incredibly bulky, cartoony armor that started being designed in like the 80s. And they all screamed about the Emperor. And when I was first trying to get into this or getting to learn about it, that just wasn't enough. And then, you know, friggin' Astartes came out, and they had that incredibly surgical, precise, unrelenting mannerism. And suddenly I was like, okay, I get it. This is what XYZ is supposed to look like. So yeah, that is my journey into 40K. And that was the thing I most enjoyed about it, was kind of figuring that out. And then I made the mistake of starting to read the Horus Heresy, and then it was all over. I'm now in the Siege of Terra, and I'm trying to finish Mortis, which I've heard is a not very well loved book of the Siege. Though it seems like, unless it's one of the premier books of the Siege of Terra, of the Horus Heresy, people really don't like a lot of the Horus Heresy, but it seems like those same people just want to crap on everything. It's they definitely went from a very strong book to a very weak book. If you've never read the Horus Heresy or anything like that, and you're interested at all, it is kind of a commitment. It's obviously, you know, a long form chapter novel, but is really good. It's great sci-fi pulp. They definitely try and take bigger themes that turn it into more of a space opera, and because of kind of the world that 30K is supposed to take place in as opposed to 40K, you don't have that constant crushing sense of everything is awful, everyone knows everything is awful, and it's never going to get better. There's this constant sense of, man, we're fighting to try and not end the universe type stuff. And that's considerably more enjoyable for me. I made the body. Look at it go. Vroom. Okay, the next thing I need is part 6. But yeah, that was something I kind of didn't notice. I didn't read a lot of 40K novels. I've read a grand total of 1, which is Belisarius' Call, the Great Work. And there's this overhanging sense of doom in that book. Like, it's not going to go well. You're going to have moments of heroism, but everyone's going to die, kind of thing, right? And in 30K, while that does exist to some extent, it's nowhere near as prevalent. Instead, you get this grand story of betrayal and pride and, you know, all of those kind of things. And it creates a much more interesting backdrop. And some of the authors are really good at humanizing these characters, and other authors are not. So, if you have any interest in reading reading the Horus Heresy, there's like 65 novels, which absolutely blew my mind when I found that out. How could you write about what it was essentially background noise for the longest time and spread it out over 65 some odd novels, almost 70? And the answer is because a grand majority of those novels are fluff. Well, to be completely honest, all of the Horus Heresy is fluff. The entire thing is trying to justify toy soldiers killing each other. But that is a big part of it, is that they just keep adding more for the sake of adding more because people wanted to read more about it. So not every one of them do a tremendous job of pushing forward the plot. You know what I mean? The overarching plot, which is pretty straightforward. A grand general of the Imperium of Man betrays them and takes half of his brothers with him to fight against his father, the Emperor of Mankind, and the remaining 9 brothers. And it's a huge intergalactic conflict with all sorts of characters and dramas and subplots, and you know, it's all very clearly advertising for this toy line, but they had the integrity to get authors who were respectable and actually decent at writing. So most of the books are, to some extent, enjoyable without having to buy into the toys, but at the same time, you can clearly see that they were beholden to the stockholders or the shareholders for a lot of it, because they have some very silly and oddly specific names for weapons and vehicles and whatnot that just feel like they're rattling off a product list. And there's a little bit of that. And, you know, some of them are clearly stronger writers than others. There's one who wrote for the Salamanders chapter named Nick Kime, and he kind of gets trashed a lot for being a very mediocre author. And I feel bad saying that, because I don't feel like you should trash anyone who's professionally published or who's trying their best to be professionally published and create their own stuff. But he almost made me quit reading the series because I thought maybe I was getting bored of it. And no, it just turns out he's not a very good writer. And I mentioned this on in my stream yesterday, but the narrator that they got to read his books is also kind of a chore. He has a very droning kind of rumbly voice that is not fun to listen to. He did give one of the greatest lines in the entire Heresy, though, and it's one that definitely got made fun of in text to speech. If you don't know about 40k, there are these characters called the Primarchs. They are these basically tank-bred super soldiers that are walking demigods. They're 10, 11 feet tall, and they're partially made up of like demonic essence is the best way to put it. Because there's some weird fantasy tropes that go into 40k about the warp and what that is, which is kind of like this immaterial plane where all emotions fester. And there are gods of what are called chaos, and they're gods in the sense that they're giant entities that represent specific concentrated emotions, right? And I feel like I'm going to end up going down a rabbit hole here by talking about this, because it's just, every time I say a new thing, it's just going to end with me being like, okay, and there's also this, okay, and there's also this. But one of them is named Vulcan, and he's supposed to be a loyalist. He's loyal to his father, the Emperor. He gets ambushed in a punitive attempt to try and bring back the rebellious son who started the whole thing, and loses most of his army, and then is captured by one of his other brothers, who is basically Batman if he had the Joker's homicidal tendencies. And so he gets captured, and he is tortured and imprisoned for months on end, and he eventually starts hallucinating and seeing the ghost of his other brother who was killed during the giant moment of betrayal. And that brother just keeps telling him he is weak. And he keeps saying, you are weak, Vulcan, weak. And he's doing that to try and mentally break him, right? But unfortunately, because of the narrator's voice, he has, like I said, he has a deep rumble where he talks like this the entire time. And as he starts talking about how weak Vulcan is, Since it's supposed to be kind of a ghostly, decrepit figure, it just keeps going, "You are weak, Vulcan! Weak!" And I kind of can't take that seriously. I don't know many who can. Okay, so I need parts 12 and 13. I don't see them. Where are parts 12 and 13? So that pops up. They're there. That pops up over and over again in the book as he's trying to escape with this disembodied head of his brother. And in text to speech, and if the Emperor had a text to speech device, the character shows up. He's been gone for 10,000 years or whatever, and he finally returns. And Vulcan was known as like one of the warmest, friendliest of the Primarchs. He was the one who was the most compassionate. His chapter tried to be more than just super soldiers. They also continued to have families and could go and visit them, and were generally like well regarded. Hey Red, how's it going? I'm putting it together. I decided that it took so long to get here that it would feel wrong to not just go ahead and start piecing this thing together. So that's what's going on right now. That, and because I'm not sure what else to do with my time, I'm just kind of rambling about the Horus Heresy and about some of the characters and my opinions on it. But yeah, they took Vulcan, put him in 40K, and if the Emperor had a text-to-speech device, and he's warm and friendly, and he's trying to all in one piece. I'm thinking so. I don't like to do sub-assemblies unless they're massive models, and that's partially because I'm just ridiculously impatient. I think I'm going to try and keep the body separate, because I have a plan. I was going to do Mario Kart, but then I realized that this thing looks like a puma. So I'm going to go ahead and turn it into a puma from Red vs. Blue. And if you've never seen Red vs. Blue, or don't know about it, it's a machinima that kind of made machinimas a thing for a little while, and it used Halo as its base game to do all of the acting and storytelling. And so two of the characters riding on a warthog kind of became an iconic moment of comedy from the first one. So that's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna make two Master Chiefs that look like the characters from the game, and I'm gonna paint this thing to look like the warthog from Halo. And because they are not the same color, anyone who knows about Red versus Blue is going to get the reference. But yeah, I kind of nixed the idea of doing the White Scars sub-army that I was planning on doing. I have a whole bunch of Primaris Outriders. I was going to repaint some of the ones I did have. I was going to make them all white. I was going to buy, I forgot what the con is, Corsaro Con. And then I realized I kind of don't want to do that. So I'm probably just going to buy Corsaro Khan and paint him up, because that would be fun and interesting. But I'm not going to spend a lot of time making a whole nother Space Marine army. I do gotta say, one thing I'm really not overly fond of with 40K's or Games Workshop's design aesthetic for the Primaris line is their need to festoon like 80 million guns on every platform. I understand that it's all tongue-in-cheek, and that it's just supposed to show how badass the Imperium is, but it just feels like too much. Kind of like their little handheld rocket launchers now. If they made them so that they were underslung, it would give them more heft, but because they're holding them like rifles, they just look like toys. Which, you know, stupid to say when they are literally all models that are toys, but you know what I mean. Is this the right size for a barrel? I think so. Yeah, that should work okay. Heck yeah. There we go. But yeah, as I was saying before, not very fond of the Nick Kime books in the Horus Heresy, but there are some absolute bangers. Since it is the Horus Heresy, it's mainly dealing with the Space Marines and their struggles, but they definitely try and give you a lot of perspective by adding human characters beyond the Space Marines that are less super, and I think that perspective really helps a lot in this is how it goes in how they've designed it. And I think, does this just go on here like so? I guess so. Okay. But yeah, I have my own favorite books, but up until I got to having to slog through the freaking Nick Kime books, I didn't really have any that I absolutely disliked. But I think there was just a bad run in the mid-30s, and that just kind of made reading 40K, or made reading the Horus Heresy a whole lot less appealing. Because they were just so, those ones in particular were just so dour and depressing, and I was not expecting a happy ending, but the endings that they did have were just soul-crushing. They are? Oh, I guess because I was supposed to slap this in here first. Okay, that's not good. There we go. Let's throw you in here. Managed to get the rest of the army, just waiting for them to turn up in post. The wallet is very much lighter. Very cool. So you're doing, you're still doing the Space Bear army from, what are they called? Atlan Forge? That's incredibly ambitious, and I wish you all the luck in the world with getting that done. I played a game of one-page rules. Okay, what the heck, guys? Oh, pop back out. Oh, who followed me? Oh no, it went away. Okay, that notification. I'm sorry. Okay. Thank you, Gregors, man. I appreciate it. Thanks for the follow. I have the instructions pulled up, and they're half covering the screen, so I couldn't quite see the name. So thank you again for the follow. I'm trying to stream a little more often again, because for a while I was doing pretty well. I was streaming at least 3 to 4 times a week and having fun with that, but then I started having some heart problems, and I was not streaming for a good solid month or so. And they seem to have that under control. We're going to have some final tests done today, and hopefully that means I'll be back a lot more regularly. But, what was I saying? Oh yeah, I was playing one-page rules. I've gotten more into one-page rules because my friends have decided that 40K 9th edition is just way too complex, and it frustrates the hell out of them. So we've all kind of switched over to one-page rules. And we're probably going to switch back when 10th hits, because 10th looks like it's going to be promising. But at least for the simplicity scale, since we're all casual players. But we were playing one-page rules, and we had this realization that Primaris in one-page rules, the Prime Brothers are just redonkulously pushed with their stat block. So, I realized I wasn't having any fun playing as them. Oh my goodness, I get to put the Space Marine together. And, I was going to switch all my stuff back to Firstborn. And, it was kind of the same with, 40K is, well, the Primaris line is neat, and they've definitely pushed them, and they want them to, oh wait, no, that was the wrong bit, wasn't it? Yeah, that's okay. They definitely want the Primaris line to be really nice and shiny and better in every way. I really don't like them, and that's completely a personal preference. There's nothing wrong with anyone else liking the Primaris line, but aesthetically, I don't like them. I don't feel like they hit the same fun notes that the original guys did. So I love the fact that this is all slotted and I can't screw it up. This makes me very happy. But so I've 3D printed an entire Firstborn army. There's only a couple things in it that are true Games Workshop plastic, and those are a set of Tactical Marines, a set of Mark 6 Marines from Age of Darkness, and the Captain. which is a Terminator Praetor from Forge World that I finished up. Well, not finished up. I got pretty much done yesterday on stream. Mechanicus is the best. I am never going to argue that point because they are so fucking cool. I don't know how much I'm allowed to swear on Twitch. I do not care because right now this is not monetized. But Mechanicus is what got me into the hobby of miniature collecting. I talked about it a minute ago, but text-to-speech and the Astartes short got me into like which armies I wanted to play. But I saw Mechanicus. My friend was really into it. He was the one who kind of pushed Warhammer on me. Not very hard. It wasn't like, you're going to play Warhammer. He just said, you know, you should look into this game. I've got my friends are playing it. They've shown it to me. I think it's great. I think you'd like it. You should play it. And I saw his Skitarii. And I'll be honest, the thing that sold me was this. First of all, the Skitarii are freaking boss. They just look fantastic. But secondly, I saw the one with the transuranic arquebus, and I immediately went, I need to get this. I need to get into this game. We've got, you know, gas mask wearing trench coat mech boys with giant sniper rifles. How can I say no to that? And then he got the tech priests and all that stuff, and it was just, it's so cool. Games Workshop really hit the nail on the head with the Adeptus Mechanicus. And I feel like something that they're really good at doing just across their range, except for Primaris, is making their models look timeless. I don't feel like the AdMech are going to look dated and silly at any point, because they really went in. I know the Robo horses are awesome. The Robo dogs are cool. The Dune Striders, the Onager Dune Crawler. Oh my gosh, it's just all so good. Their Spider Tank is fantastic. Even their transport, the Scorpius Dune Rider. Oh crap! I should not have put that together.
I forgot his head. I've made mistakes.
But I love their model line. I think it's interesting to look at. I think it's got a very unique and kind of iconic, you know, color scheme and aesthetic. And I can't gush more about the AdMech. Belisarius Call is one of the coolest HQs in the game, even if he's not necessarily all powerful. See, I don't know why. I just don't like these guys, but that's okay. Mechanicus are great, but I really want to go back to Firstborn Space Marines, so that's what I did. I've got a set of Mark 6 Tacticals. I've got a set of the original Tactical Marines. I have 3D printed a set of Mark 3s because Imperial Fists, and I gotta have those face plates. And then I 3D printed everything else. So I'm working on it. I need to get another Whirlwind, and I need to 3D print another Drop Pod. The Tau are great too. I love the Tau. I think that they're a great addition to the lore. I wish people would give them a break. Wait a minute. No, help, police. I did that wrong. I forgot. This was not the guy I wanted to put together. I'll deal with him later. What I need to be putting together is the writer, who I'm not going to put in his seat yet. I think I'm going to paint him separate. I don't know. Should I paint him separately? Is he going to have enough room to be painted properly? Yeah, until the turret goes on, he's not really covered, so I can go ahead and do that now. But the Tau were actually my first choice for an army. Most of the models look they look what they look like, right? But I wasn't really feeling the battle suits because I thought they were so top heavy with how big the chest and torso is. And so I wasn't really feeling that. But what did make me go, oh, I need me one of those, was the broadside. I know he's not the greatest unit in the world, but the fact that it was this stocky little robot with this big fuck off rifle, just made me very happy. I don't know why, but I love giant oversized rifles. Maybe it's a compensating thing. I have no clue, but a little bit of self-deprecating humor there. But something about the broadside, and it's I don't know, it's called the Magna Rail Rifle. Something about that just hits all the right notes. Even more so than the shoulder-mounted version, which, to be honest, I could give or take. And then, you know, they had the Storm Surge, which is just this stupid chicken with a big old cannon. And it's just like, how could you say no to that? Did that wrong again, so, buddy, you're about to lose your next stump. Aha, there we go. So yeah, I think Games Workshop has done a very good job of consistently nailing the aesthetic of the armies they want. Like right now, I am completely feeling the Votan. I really like the Votan. Got the whole squad here. Oh no, he's even got 2 drones. One of my favorite moments was playing in 2018 Kill Team. I was playing against my friend Space Wolves, and I definitely rolled well enough to kill his Wolf Lord or whatever with a drone in melee. And it still makes me laugh to this day that it basically just hovered over to this giant Terminator armored, you know, Wolf Lord, and then bonk, and he's dead. Just good stuff. He was not happy. But yeah, I like how they changed the Tau in 9th, and I hope that they continue going in a positive direction in 10th. I'm really excited for the new indexes. I like the idea of the game kind of being stripped back to basics. I feel like 9th just got too much. And I know there are people who love that. I enjoy it. I enjoy the theory crafting. I enjoy the idea of figuring out how to stack my my buffs and my strats in the right order and in the right times. But it just became so cumbersome to play that no one else wants to play it with me. And I'd really rather play with my friends than with strangers, even though that's kind of how you make friends, I guess. But yeah, I want to be able to play the game in a way that only takes an hour or two instead of the entire afternoon and early evening. 6th edition, from what I understand, the core gameplay was more complex. But, the way that... There's just something funny about a torso holding up a monitor. This man is watching TV right now. He is enjoying his fishing show. Oh, that's great. But I got into 40K right at the end of 8th edition. I got a starter box set of known, I think, First Strike. I don't remember what it was called. It was from the 8th edition where... Oh no, are you kidding me? What? Where it was the Plague Marines because they had brought back Mortarion and that was their range refresh and all that fun stuff. There we go. And I wasn't too into it then. It really took seeing the Tau and kind of slowly learning about them and then playing Kill Team that really sold me. But that's when I got into it. Plague Boys! Hey, QB, how's it going? That's my wife. It's Art by QB. She popped in to say hi. I made a Mario Kart. Look at my little Mario Kart. Okay. But yeah, so I'm not overly familiar with how 40K played prior to... Hit him with a blue shell. Oh no. You got him. I need to find a way to add a graphic of that happening. I'm going to have a lot of fun with this model because it doesn't have a base. So what's going to end up happening is I'm going to be strongly encouraged to make a diorama with him. And actually, oh, that's a good idea. I can print some other intercessors and paint them up as other members of Red versus Blue, and then I can like do the scene where the puma jumps the hill in season 1. That would be fun. I think I'm going to do that. I'm gonna make this into a diorama that I can just show off. enter into competitions, whatever. It'll be fun. But yeah, I by the time I actually got to sit down and play 40K with friends, it was when 9th edition was rolling out. So we started with Kill Team because having whole armies was way too expensive. And during the pandemic especially, since some parts of it broke off. Since all my friends are school teachers and whatnot, we ended up just kind of playing during independent work time for the kids. And yeah, that kind of led to bigger and better things as we started getting an army. The AdMech friend already had one because his friends were really excited to get him into 40K, so they were buying him stuff so that to help bulk out his army. And then he started buying other supplemental units that he needed, and that just kind of ended with him having the army first. And then I took things way too far, and I started buying into that as well. And it just kind of became, a goofy hobbyist arms race as we all tried to build our armies as quickly as possible and get them up and running. And then I got a 3D printer, and then it was all over. You started playing 40K because your job made you hate your life? That's really unfortunate. I'm sorry that your job sucks. Hopefully you're in a better one now, and hopefully 40K was a nice kind of, release valve for whatever stress was building up. Because that is, I hate the fact that that's what our hobbies do for us, because we really shouldn't have that. But, capitalist hellscape. But yeah, it's definitely a hobby. I think my favorite part is that me personally, I'm glad it helps. That's what's kept me in the hobby is doing stuff like what I'm doing right now. Is incredibly rewarding on like an emotional level. I've really enjoyed the building and the painting and the modeling aspect of it. And it's allowed me to do something I didn't think I could do. I've never considered myself artistic. I tried to paint a Robotech model I bought when I was like 12 or 13, maybe a little older, and it was absolutely hideous, and I did a terrible job, and the resources just weren't there for me to get better, so I gave up and just never thought I'd be very good at modeling and painting. And turns out I was a liar. But yeah, I'm happy to know that 40K has helped you as much as it has, because we all deserve to be happy. But yeah, I'm having a lot of fun with this. I mean, I get to put models together on the internet, and people watch me and they enjoy it. Can't be too mad. There we go. This is a stupid car. I don't really know how else to put it, but this thing is friggin' stupid. It's just a plate covering nothing. Oh man, I love it. I love it. Okay, I need the grip bar, I guess, or the roll cage and the antenna now. I feel like, well, he's never gonna get to see play, so I don't have to worry about that. I was gonna say the Melta is clearly the superior choice because a multi-Melta is just a better gun, but the Warthog has like a minigun on the back of it in red versus blue, so I think I've got to stick with that. So I think that's what's going to happen, is I'm going to make this as lore accurate to red versus blue as possible. I might have to do the scene where Simmons just unloads the minigun at the hilltop while Church and oh my goodness, why can't I remember the name of the teal one?
Can't it be magnetized? Yeah, it can, but that's actually not a bad idea. I always forget about magnetizing as a thing, because I'm so used to just putting it all together.
A moment. Be right back. I need to memorialize something.
Okay. Sorry about that. My brain kind of went all over the place. That's kind of amazing.
Friend just sent a text saying that Star Trek Picard ripped off Belisarius Call, The Great Work. And it's because,
let me see, how did he just put it? Sorry to spoil Picard if any of you are watching it. An ex-science experiment identifies an evil scientist because it remembers her whistling 3 blind mice during the evil
experiments. That's really funny. If you haven't read The Great Work, first of all, it's a pretty good book. It's not the greatest book I've ever read, but it does a great job of characterizing Belisarius Call and giving you a very clear idea of like his motivations, where he comes from, his personality. But one of the things he talks about is how important and viable the planet of Sotha is for the Imperium, because Sotha was completely destroyed. Sotha was completely destroyed by like Tyranids, right? And it's essentially abandoned. But for over 10,000 years, it was an important world for the Ultramarines and for Ultramar. And one of the things he talks about, which is a really stupid but funny reference, is Goldilocks and the 3 Ursine hypothesis. And if you can kind of extrapolate that, which should not be difficult, he's talking about Goldilocks and the 3 Bears, and how the way he described it is that Goldilocks was an ancient Terran warlord, and the 3 Ursine hypothesis is the idea that there's always going to be either something's too good or it's too bad, or there's too much or too little, and then you have the one thing that is just right. So they had Belisarius Call straight up talk about Goldilocks and the 3 Bears as a reason why Sotha needed to be re-terraformed and restored for the Empire of Ultramar. And that shit's funny. And it kind of amazes me, to be honest, how much fan backlash there is to some of that stuff. Because, and it's not really a whole lot. I'm not going to try and claim that there's a huge number of people who absolutely dislike it. But there are quite a few people who get very upset about tongue-in-cheek references like that. Oh, okay, so all I need to do really is take off these nubs, and then on this part I can hollow that out a little more, and I can just stick a magnet in there, I suppose.
That works.
14 and 15. But there's definitely that contingent of fans I say very, very loosely, on the internet who just seem to want to hate
Everything Warhammer related.
That's new, just because it's not what they grew up with, and they just want to be mad at Games Workshop for everything they do. And that's one of the things that happens, is someone was trying to trash the Dan Abnett novels, which Dan Abnett's a pretty darn good writer. He's written some of the best Warhammer fiction. He's done work for comics and I think some TV shows, I do not recall. But he's a pretty well-respected writer in the sci-fi community. But they just wanted to trash Dan Abnett because he always has like a quirky ancient character who knows references to either the greater workings of the 40k universe or references to old pop culture things. And I mean, that's kind of the fun of it, is that you're dealing with a world that's 40,000 years in the future. So having characters who have a not very strong grasp of ancient Earth is silly. Is this where it goes? Am I doing this wrong? No, I'm doing it right. Oh, just need to be squeezed harder. I'm so afraid of breaking this that I'm constantly very gently touching parts of it and not pushing a lot. When I worked in construction, my boss used to say that I was marshmallowing things because I didn't want to break anything. And so I was very gentle with it. So this is going to go right here. Yeah, it's just gonna dry fit down there as the exhaust bit. Just like caboose. I was petting the bunny and then he ran into the soup can. Okay. And 3 little holes here, here, and here. Come on, there we go. This is going a lot more smoothly than I thought it would.
I was expecting this to be a lot more difficult, but I'm actually almost done.
It looks like the next thing I need to do is finish putting this goober together, which is not going to be hard, it looks like. Oh my goodness, they even put a peg in his hip, in his butt, so they can give him his sidearm. That's silly. I completely forgot where I was going with anything. But yeah, I don't think I want to magnetize it, simply because, like I said, I'm not going to use this for actual gameplay. And since I'm never going to use it in a tournament, I'm not going to have to deal with WYSIWYG. Almost likely just tell whoever I'm playing that's a friend that's like, hey, he's got a minigun, or an autocannon, or whatever you want to call it. But I've actually got him kitted with a multi-melta. So, yeah. Should not be a problem. Instead, I'm just going to have a really cool bit that I'll probably throw on something else just for kicks and giggles, I suppose. Okay, put your belt clip on. There we go. Okay, so they give us these pieces, these little bits on the actual intercessor models, but they definitely would not fit like this. It's not a big deal. It's just something I noticed. And okay, so you know what? No, I am going to go ahead and just throw these guys on here. Of all the options I have today, I am choosing laziness. Okay, so we're going to slide that on there, slide that on there. Come on. Get in your holes. Stupid ankle pegs. There we go. There we go, nice and tight.
Brother, help!
Okay, minigun. Let's go. Yeah, I'm kind of looking forward to be done with Mortis. I was talking about this and then I lost the plot because I meandered off somewhere else, and now I'm back to it, I suppose. Back to the Siege of Terra, just kind of mentally. I mentioned I was on Mortis. People don't really like it. It followed up a really good book. It's fine. Having read through, I guess, 2/3 of it now, the book is fine. I think the problem is it kind of takes away from the central drama and meanders back towards the Titan legions and how they're fighting. And some people just didn't want that. They wanted more Primarchs. They wanted more Space Marines doing Space Marine things. And it doesn't do much to push the plot forward. There are a lot of little mechanisms moving around in the background, but I guess people didn't want that. And from what I understand, people were really tired of all of the bits with the perpetuals and all of that, which I guess I kind of get. People don't like the perpetuals. I think they're a fine addition. They add more mystery and whatnot to the universe. They explain some of the sillier issues in a way that I guess makes sense. But I don't know. I'm perfectly fine just kind of going for the ride. I think my favorite thing though is people arguing about what's canon and what's not canon. Because even the Games Workshop designers said that there is no canon. Everything is fluff. So it's all just there to make these little plastic men more interesting for you to play with and give you a little more justification for them doing what they do. And that's perfectly fine. It definitely explains a lot of the silliness and a lot of the contradiction that you see in the quote-unquote lore. And I guess that was to try and get people to stop arguing about it. Because depending on the author, you get vastly different interpretations of characters, and then you can just kind of say which version you like or which version you don't. And it makes inconsistencies like that make a whole lot more sense. Minigun. Minigun. Beautiful. Of all the guns that I will never be allowed to own, this is one of them. Oh no, I've always wanted to fire a minigun. When I was in college, I was much more an avid collector and hobbyist and enthusiast of firearms than I am now. I've kind of stepped away from it because it's an expensive money trap, and I don't have a very good history of spending money on things. I've stopped playing Magic and got into Warhammer. That was, you know, setting one bag of money on fire and then deciding, nah, I'd rather set this other bag of money on fire. I have done myself no favors.
Exactly, like Magic.
But that's perfectly okay. Switching over to the 3D printer has definitely helped curtail a lot of my spending in this hobby.
What the heck is...
Part 10. Okay. And I'm assuming that this other weird little part, 21, is supposed to be part of the melt. Yeah, it's the canister for the Melta. But yeah, getting away from Magic was both a positive and a negative, because I was starting to get deep into the competitive part of it, while also enjoying building stupid meme decks. And since they were cheaper, or I would have most of the parts, it'd be like, oh, well, I only need, you know, $15 more of cards, and then I can make this deck. And then I'd realize that that didn't seem like enough, and it was like, well, I don't want to just spend this much on it. I think I'm going to go ahead and buy XYZ. And suddenly I've spent like $50 or $60 on cards that I really didn't need, and those cards are going to help me build another deck, but I'm not going to have all the pieces. Those are just kind of prep pieces, and so it's like, well, I got to go back and buy more, and then I'm on there, and I'm like, well, I only need like $15, and it's like, well, that doesn't seem like enough money to waste, and so I go buy more, and then just, it keeps going. It's by far the worst part of getting into Magic, and why I realized I needed to stop. It was just, it was too easy to spend money on that hobby. And nickel and dime myself to death. Especially with stuff that didn't keep value. At the very least, if I decide to sell out a Warhammer, I'm gonna recoup some of my expenses, you know? Okay, next thing that's gonna need to go. Does this go? It just goes on top, doesn't it? Yeah, it's on top. Just on top. No, it don't. Why don't you slide on top? They do slide on top. I'm just being itchy with it. So we're gonna go ahead and put that in there. No, did I do something wrong? That's not how that works. It claims that's how that works. Is this supposed to sit further back? Am I doing this wrong? Weird.
Very odd.
I don't think it's supposed to have these little slots on the side, because those are what's pushing it out. Or did I accidentally pull out the wrong piece? I pulled out the wrong piece. Golly. Should have grabbed 9. Yeah, that was definitely for the Melta. I hecked up. I need food, but I'm not allowed to have food. Not until after I have the procedure done. Okay. Thank you, by the way. You caught it right as I did. Except, your catching of it didn't ruin the piece. That's okay. Let's go ahead and see. Yeah, see, like that. There we go. That slid in perfectly. Okay. And then this is going to go in here. And it's going to be great. We're just going to go ahead and do that. You ain't got no arms, Lieutenant Dan. Oh, man. This poor guy underneath is going to have such a headache. Yeah, apparently, it's a trait that got passed down from my father, even though he is a remodeling contractor. Every now and then he'll do a dumb and he'll install something the wrong way, or not read the directions clearly and make a big mistake. And apparently my big mistake that I commonly make is I put things in backwards. And it's happened consistently enough that I feel like it's a strong personality trait of mine, is to go through, and if I'm not paying enough attention, put something in upside down or backwards or whatever. But because of that, I've become very much a stickler at reading directions. But I guess because I'm both streaming and reading directions off of the internet, I'm struggling a little more. But that's okay. Nothing wrong with that. No harm, no foul. I think I want to find a way to put that multi-melta somewhere else, on some other structure or installation or something that I can make that will give it more utility. Okay. And the Mario Kart is done. Actually, you know what? Since I want to pull out the sprues. Speaking of, Games Workshop has decided at some select Warhammer stores they are going to accept used sprues as part of a better recycling project. And I'm excited about that because there is an incredible amount of plastic that gets wasted via Warhammer packaging and the like. But I kind of wish they would, give us an incentive to do this outside of, hey, this is better for the environment. Because while obviously, hey, this is better for the environment is a darn good incentive, I wonder if they're going to recycle the sprues somehow, like remelt them back down, if they can, even if that's viable, or what. But something Guy from Midwinter Mini suggested a few months ago now was that if you were to recycle a sprue, that they could just have it melted down and pressed, and then it could become a piece of terrain. And I really like that idea. I wouldn't mind getting extra pieces of terrain made out of the melted sprues. Now, I guess the understanding there is that Games Workshop would be setting itself up to lose money because people would be getting melted terrain, or sprues. Sorry, brain died. Terrain out of sprues instead of buying the terrain independently. But I don't know. That just seems like a really good goodwill piece to me. But that's just me. What do I know? Okay. Because I don't know. Terrain is incredibly expensive, and it always makes me sad when I realize that to flesh out my battlefield, I would need to spend a hypothetical $80 to $100 to get some new bits and bobs for it. And to be completely honest, that's why I got myself 3D printers instead. Okay, yeah, I see where the slots are supposed to line up with now. That's okay. It's gonna look fine. Get out there. And you can go in here, and you can do that. Okay, we're gonna have to reform this plastic a little bit. There we go. There we go. Okay, where are the instructions for the melta? Oh. Either it didn't come with them or I just didn't pay attention. But that's fine. It makes sense. So that's just gonna sit there until it seals, which it did, and I can put this on something else now. Cool. And there he is. He's done. I'll be right back. I have to use the bathroom. Downloading all the brush sets. Yes, using some of that sweet, sweet con money to give yourself some awesome new brush sets. The grill? What the hell is that? Okay, I'm gonna go to the bathroom real quick. I will be right back, ladies and gents. Okay, I'm back. This is going to be a fantastic excuse to 3D print some assault intercessor bodies with some regular intercessor weapons and arms, to have them fleeing as this thing crests a hill. You know what I mean? It's going to be fantastic and silly. And poor Church, and why can't I remember the name of the teal red versus blue character? I remember his first name being Cole. Is it Tucker? Church, Simmons, wait, yeah, Tucker. Okay, Tucker. It gives me a perfect excuse to build those characters out. Okay, let's move some of this stuff away. Let's go ahead and... I could just brush this off and throw it in the garbage, but I'm downstairs in the basement with a poured floor, so... I'll get back up eventually. Okay, the next thing that's going to happen is we're going to go ahead, well, I'm going to go ahead, and I'm going to... Hello there. Oh, you're the back. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and prime this thing. Go there. It is almost 9:30. I mean, I don't have to be anywhere until 11, so my figure is that we leave at 10:15, 10:30, and that way we can get there a little early. No, they said that it's at 11, and that's kind of when we had to be there. If you want, actually, yeah, what I think I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and hop off now because my voicemail is attached to my phone, and I'm using my phone as the camera. So I think this is not a bad place to stop. I'm going to go ahead and hop off, and I'll check my voicemail, and then I'll prime this guy off camera. And hopefully at some point, I can actually paint him on camera and let you guys see the process. So thank you for joining me, guys. I do appreciate it. I hope you had fun chilling and hanging out. I know I had fun getting to goof off and talk and make a little warthog. I will see you guys later. Have a great rest of your day. Have a great rest of your evening and afternoons. Thank you for joining me, and I'll see you later. Bye-bye, guys.